Hey, this is Warren Bird chatting with Jason Paredes from Fielder Church, and he's had a bit of experience in the transition for his church from monocultural to multicultural. Jason, as others come to you and hear your story, what are some tips you can give them who are trying to make similar transitions?
It's such a complicated issue to try to transition from one culture to be diverse, and there's so many complications to it that you don't even anticipate. I think some of the core foundational truths that you have to operate by is to know cataclysmic change is going to come. For one, there's no way to get around it smoothly. Leading through it's difficult. Feelings are going to get hurt. Mistakes are going to be made. But there has to be a boldness, I think, if you're going to walk into that, first of all, to say, I know this is going to be rough. I know it's going to be confusing, but we're going to go for it. If the majority group doesn't have that bent from the beginning, they will give up in the process. There was a time when I was sitting with our senior pastor at the time, and we'd gotten through a meeting where we learned that some of the people of our church were not online. In fact, very racially charged in the opposite direction, saying some things that were downright offensive. And our senior pastor, in a moment of intense pain, looked at me and said, "Is it worth it? I mean, are we doing what's right here? Are we tearing the church apart?" I remember looking at him at the time, just saying, "I mean, I can't imagine any more reason that it would be more worth it than to know the bride of Jesus Christ is not healthy, and Jesus is going to return, and He's going to see a sick bride, and we cannot be okay with that." And so for no other reason than present a healthy bride, we need to work on this. And so the two of us decided to collaborate together and work through the friction. And there were people who left the church, people who weren't on par with the vision, and that was a difficult thing. There was a winnowing out. So there is an incredible amount of boldness, especially from the senior leader of the church, who has to say, I'm going to charge this hill, and I'm going to get some scars along the way, and I'm going to be burned along the way, but it's going to be worth it. Another thing I'd say is when it comes to staffing and change, you have to be willing to make some radical changes. And so when we started our new campus, where we knew it was going to be a different language group, most multi-site strategy is it's to say where people live on the fringe of our church. Let's get some core people where they presently live, and then we'll reach out with the same thing we're doing. And so we were dumb enough to say, let's try multi-site, but completely not the way you're supposed to do it. So we go into an area that we're not engaging very well in a language we don't presently have, and somehow pray God will do something there. It was the missionary call way more than it was multi-site, though we were one campus or one church with multi-campuses. We went and we realized we got in way over our heads as far as what it was going to do to be multilingual, and the production of things and the cost of it and the reproduction of staff that have to be able to speak two different languages. And so we looked up and realized the cost was greater than we thought. Again, goes back to the courage I said before to say, we've charted this course and we believe God has sent us on this, so we're going to pay whatever price it may be. And so we marched forward with it. Through that, we've had some amazing discoveries. One of them is staff meeting is a totally different color now. We didn't intend for it, but when you're hiring people who have to be bilingual or speak Spanish, they look different. They sound different. And you look up and realize so much has changed within your church. And so that as well, you have to be radically set enough to say we're going to pay the cost of the changes that take place. Third thing I'd say is you want to take as many people with you, and so you have to have a lot of very open conversations. And what we've learned among the staff is we have to sit and say, tell me, why does this offend you? And we have to have thick enough skin to go, okay, I know you don't mean that well, or you don't mean harm in that statement. You just really want to know why this offends me. So even though it seems obvious to me why this is offensive and not to you, I'm going to explain it to you. That takes a lot of relational equity. And so in this context, you can't do business. You have to do relationships. And they have to be deep relationships based on who Jesus is and how we identify with each other. And so your culture has to change. If it's been goal-oriented and business-related, it has to become relationship-oriented, which, by the way, most other cultures are that way anyway. And so you meet in the middle. Now, for me, Latinos have a lot to learn from an Anglo business mindset. Anglos have a lot to learn from the Latino relationship side. So we come together in a new ground and rediscover who we are. But those are all, I think, truths and elements that a majority group would need to learn before they can really engage a minority group.
That's gold advice. You have seen some fruit, though. Talk to us. You talked about pain and losing people, but what are some of the victories that have said, this is worthwhile, this is bringing joy in heaven?
Yeah, I can tell you there is nothing more rewarding than watching the church change. It's an interesting thing. We have a room that holds about 1,600 or so, and it's amazing to watch the way the wave of color change comes to the diversity of our church, because it really is like a tidal wave, but it starts from the back. So you come in on Sunday morning, and if you look at the front area closest to the stage, it's still largely Anglo. But where we began to see the first growth was in the very far back, under the balcony area, where there would be a whole lot of diversity. And it just kind of kept creeping forward, and like a wave just coming toward the front. And we have a long way to go, but we've increased from about 5% diverse to 21% diverse over the last 5 years. And we anticipate that increasing even more to catch up with where our city is. There's something remarkably beautiful about watching from the back of the room. When I finish a sermon and I'm standing in the back watching the people come out of the Metro Center, that's the name of our room, where they are, for probably the first couple minutes, you can scarce find an Anglo person, which used to be all Anglo. There's African American, there's Hispanic, there's people tatted up, there's people looking as ghetto as can be, and others looking as fly as can be. I mean, it's just incredible to see them come out in all the different colors and cultures. And you sit back, I promise you, in that moment when you see that, you sit back and go, God, it is worth it. Just to see what I just saw right there, God, it is worth it. Because those people never would have set foot in a church had something not changed in here. And they walk away going, I never knew that in our city there was a church like this. And to hear that comment alone is enough to say, let's keep at this. So it is supremely worth it. And honestly, we've had to adjust our goals, where we've always been so high on attendance as the highest goal. We've had to say, no, diversity is going to be a higher goal. Though I will say, though it comes in waves, though the people who come are much less regular in their attendance, we've seen some amazing spikes in attendance of people who are that new category. They're not believers. They are irregular attenders to the church, because they don't know the churchy way. You're supposed to be regular. You're not holy enough. They haven't learned that yet, and they haven't learned other things about what it means to be givers. And so you see ramifications of it. But I mean, that's what it means to be the church. If you're going to engage the lost and you're bringing the unchurched in, that'll be there, and we can train them and mold them. So the potential is off the charts, and that gives a significance to what we're doing.
Powerful words. Jason Paredes, Fielder Church, Arlington, Texas. Thank you for your wisdom and advice.